So what are the biggest differences between living in a smaller city like Augusta, Georgia versus living in a much larger city like Charlotte, North Carolina? Well, I've lived in both for many years, and in this video, I'm going to share with you my experiences living in both cities and hopefully provide you some perspective on whether or not Augusta is worth moving to if you're living in another big city, or if you're living in Augusta, whether or not moving to one of these cities makes sense or not. The first step most people make when looking for a new place to live is they obviously look at what the home values are in the area that they're thinking about moving to. Well, in Charlotte, the average home value sits right under $400,000 at $390,000. Now, in contrast to Augusta, it's a whole lot cheaper. In fact, almost half. The average home value in the city of Augusta in Richmond County is $200,000. Now, you can go to other counties in Augusta like Columbia County, and the same way with Charlotte, you can go to other counties that are a little bit cheaper to live in, whereas Augusta, you can go to other counties a little bit more expensive to live in. But overall, the average home value in Augusta is a whole heck of a lot cheaper than it is up in Charlotte. And that makes sense, right? Like, there's a ton more opportunity for you as far as jobs and activities, sporting events up in Charlotte than there is, say, down here in Augusta. For example, a place called Mooresville, which is just outside of Charlotte, is where racing actually began. And so in Charlotte, the car culture and the racing scene is really prevalent. You got the Charlotte Motor Speedway for NASCAR, dirt tracks, and by the way, there's tons of tiny little dirt tracks that are scattered throughout the suburbs. We have the Z-Max Dragway, which sees a lot of attention every year. You can go to a Cars and Coffee on the first Saturday of every month, most months, the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So if you are a car guy, I think Charlotte's an awesome place for you to live in. We also have other sporting events like the Charlotte Knights if you're into baseball. We've got the Charlotte Hornets with LaMelo Ball if you're into basketball. And we also have the Carolina Panthers if you like football. So a little bit of everything to choose from, but Augusta, we really only have one thing, and you probably already guessed it. Yep. Golf. That is the only sport really that we have here that performs at a high level. We have the Green Jackets, which is another minor league baseball, which is honestly really fun to go to and a cool atmosphere, but it's not as big and grandiose as like going to a Atlanta Braves game would be, obviously. Now, obviously we have the Masters that comes here once a year, so if you're lucky enough to get a ticket to, that's another added perk of just being in the Augusta area, but that also comes with a lot of traffic, a lot of headaches during that season. So a little bit of give and take with everything. Charlotte's also got several lakes if you like water sports. The quality and the amount of high-end shopping centers is way more prevalent in Charlotte than it is down here in Augusta. But again, all of this makes sense, right? Because Charlotte has a population of about 880,000 people, whereas Augusta has a population of only 200,000. So less than a fourth of the size of Charlotte. So you're definitely not going to have the vast quantity of things to do as Charlotte, but you still have plenty to keep you busy. And that's why people move to Augusta anyways, right? People move to smaller cities or smaller towns to chase after kind of that slower way of living. Now, I grew up in Charlotte, got my license in Charlotte, learned how to drive in Charlotte, and so I became what I didn't realize was an aggressive driver, because honestly, that's just what it takes when you're on a 5-lane highway and traffic is bumper to bumper and you've got to make decisions super quick and fast, and you really don't have time to think everything through a lot. Down here in Augusta, we don't have many of those big lane highways. Most of our roads or highways are 2 to 3 lanes, and people do not drive as fast as they drive around 485, which is the interstate that goes around Charlotte. The locals of Charlotte call that like the second speedway, because the speed limit is like 75 on 485, which means everybody goes 90 to 95 over 100 miles an hour. It can be really intimidating. I know my wife came from Martinsville, Virginia, which is kind of in the middle of nowhere, and she had never even been on a 5-lane highway before in her life. So when she came down to my house for the first time when we were dating, she said she almost had a panic attack because of the amount of people on the roads. So people come to Augusta to chase after that slower way of living. Nobody really seems to be in a rush to get from point A to point B, like it's more popular to see in Charlotte, where everybody is very quick to get from where they are to where they want to go. The one other big difference between Augusta and Charlotte is honestly the crime rate. And again, totally makes sense because you have more people in Charlotte, so you have more chances of being a victim by a violent crime. But the contrast is pretty stark. In Augusta, your chances of being a victim of a violent crime are 1 in 1,670 versus the state of Georgia, where it's about 1 in 272. So way safer on average as a whole than the rest of the state of Georgia. Augusta is also ranked 78% safer than most neighborhoods in the US. Now, when you compare that to Charlotte, we see some pretty big differences. The chances of being a victim by a violent crime in Charlotte increased to 1 in 138, compared to that of the state of North Carolina as a whole, which is about 1 in 247. In fact, Charlotte is only ranked 5% safer than neighborhoods in the US. Now, the other downfall of Augusta is honestly just the limited white-collar job opportunities. Augusta is definitely more of a blue-collar city. We do have a huge medical field and cyber intelligence industry. We do have a huge cybersecurity and medical industry here in Augusta, but those are really the biggest white-collar jobs that we really have here. Again, not that you couldn't find others, it's just a little bit more difficult to find than there would be in Charlotte. Charlotte's the banking capital of the world. If you're wanting to get into banking or finances, Charlotte's probably a way better route for you to take than Augusta would be. I know when I graduated college, I have my business degree in marketing, and when I came down to Augusta for the first time, I really struggled finding a job in the marketing field. Now, obviously, I'm a real estate agent now, so I use marketing every day. In fact, I'm using it right now as I'm talking to you. But if you're in kind of the same situation as me, you may have to get a little bit creative in what jobs, or you may have to become sort of an entrepreneur and create your own income, such as I have. But if you're a travel nurse or you're wanting to think about getting into the medical field, I would absolutely recommend checking out Augusta. We have so many hospitals within our area, so many job opportunities, so many travel nurses coming in and out. The Airbnb market is super hot in Augusta for travel nurses. So if you're also an investor and you're thinking about buying an investment property and your target market is these travel nurses that are constantly coming in and out of the city, it could be a great and lucrative option for you. That's going to do it for this one. Super quick video. I just wanted to give you guys some perspective. If you're thinking about moving to Augusta or Charlotte, either one, and you have some more questions, you want to learn more about what my experiences were like learning in both cities, leave a comment down below, or you can send me a private message. All my information is in the description below. Give me a shout. I'd love to hear from you. So that's going to do it for this one. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.